I'm walking a mile with Brian Paul this morning. Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Oh, great. It's good to be with you, Joe.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time out of what looks like a pretty darn busy schedule.
Yeah. Yeah, never a dull moment, that's for sure.
So I know that I was looking at your YouTube page just before I came on the phone with you, and I see you just posted a video of. So what is this? What's this Dawn Phoenix folk show? What is that? Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, that sort of recently was, I guess you could say, born from a death. So I have a dear friend named Bruce Stevenson who
Oh yeah,
probably wrote about 1,500 to 2,000 original songs, and actually was the friend that connected me with Noah Zachrin, who you recently
yeah,
interviewed.
yeah.
They were friends, and Bruce introduced me to Noah when we were living in Toronto.
Right.
Um, but he so Bruce passed away in January, and we were sharing kind of like a room basically, and so I turned the half of the room that he used to live in, or mostly kind of just stored his stuff in. Actually, he kind of unofficially lived in another room.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I basically sort of put up a little studio corner in that part of the room where he used to stay, and he really loved all in his kind of folk process, and he had kind of ideas of different ways that it could turn into like a kind of a folk music library or community. He liked to call that the Dawn Phoenix. Dawn Phoenix was kind of one of his favorite names for that.
I see. So
Yeah.
you're starting a show. What is the show? Tell me what the show is about.
Well, yeah. So I think I might end up calling the studio Dawn Phoenix Studio, and I think we'll probably end up calling the show Living Traditions, because what I think I was originally thinking of, kind of, I guess, doing something similar to what you're doing, but where there's sort of storytelling and then like a song each. So, say if you came and sat in the show, we would tell a bit of stories about, say, a song we were both going to do,
Yeah.
and maybe practice it a little ahead of time and play and maybe even sing with each other on the song.
Nice. Nice. Yeah.
And
So,
then
so
it's kind of expanding because of all the different people I know that are so interesting to probably other areas like of I like to call them living traditions. I'm sort of fascinated by old traditions that are still alive through practice, not just in a book, you know.
yeah. Talk about that a little
hmm
bit. I like that idea. I like that concept.
hmm Well, I mean, that's absolutely my favorite version of that or one of my favorites. Certainly is singing and songwriting. And then even just some of the songs that are alive. There's a lot of songs that we probably know and love that no one even knows who wrote them, and we still sing them.
Right.
And it's just such a wonderful way to experience that being part of something bigger than yourself.
Right.
You know.
Right.
hmm
So, like, truly the sort of true folk tradition, then.
hmm
Yeah. Like when you say tradition, you're really referring in this case to folk music tradition.
Yeah. Well, and other traditions, because I mean, I've been a student, and I still am. I call myself a student practitioner forever of all these different arts and sciences, really. But
Yeah.
I guess you could say just as a result of being very interested in knowing myself and being a better version of myself and healing myself and this kind of thing. Like, I've just kind of looked into a lot of different things, and kind of, just brushed feathers with some of these uh, big birds that have been around for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. To give me an example. Give me an example.
uh, well, I would. So when I was about 19 years old, I really kind of started having different, thoughts and feelings that didn't make as much sense to me. I didn't started not feeling as normal as I thought I was and stuff like that. And And so I started getting into psychology, and then looking at the roots of psychology, and that sort of led into learning about meditation traditions. So then, and actually kind of combined with journaling as a form of self-awareness and healing, which really turned into songwriting.
Yeah.
Um, I was basically I became fascinated with also the history of different traditions that used sound and word, and just kind of the origins of sound and word as an art form and whatnot, and so languages, and then even just different practices that are associated with that, like meditation practices, for example. Um,
Yeah, I saw
I
that.
guess,
I saw that you consider singing uh, an act of meditation.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I know poetry is big in your world, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
talk a bit about poetry. Talk about your poetry and how it relates to the music that you produce.
hmm Well, I guess I would say the kind of the poetry is like the mental aspect of a song, and the melody is like the heart.
Mm, mm,
Um, and so then, practicing a song is like it's good practice of putting those two otherwise chasmly divided parts of ourselves together.
right, right.
And
So sort of
so,
cognitive, it's like cognitive, intellectual stuff, and heart and feeling, emotion. I guess, eh?
hmm
Yeah.
and I guess I actually studied philosophy in university for just a little, four could have been a 3 year stint, but I made it a 4 year stint.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and I was actually interested in psychology a lot also. But the sort of uh, quest for truth, I guess you could say.
Yep.
And so I find what I try to do with my mind lyrically is to sort of really articulate uh, like an absolutely mysterious experience that is actually beyond knowing with your mind.
Mm,
Uh,
mm.
and that's kind of the joy of writing as a main one of the main joys of writing a song, sort of taking something that maybe, I guess you could go at it from all these different angles, but I guess two that are coming to my mind is, taking something from an angle of where you think you know it, and you can explore it more until you see the balance of that there's actually a mystery involved in the situation, or if you think something's a mystery, you sort of get to know it better, but it still remains a mystery.
Mm,
And
mm.
so that's sort of I guess you could say, you could say that's a sort of a guiding principle of what I engage with when I'm writing a poem or a song.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. So the poetry or the lyrics sort of come first for you, and the music after. Is that how that tends to
Oh,
work?
no, no rules. Just
Yeah.
it just comes in all the different ways. Sometimes it's words first, sometimes it's music.
Yeah.
But I find typically the best ones are where they just all come at once. And it's just always such a treat when that happens.
Yeah. 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 So now tell me a little bit about your musical memory when you're performing.
Oh, you mean like not needing to use a songbook
Yeah.
like I usually have with me?
Well, I mean, we all use songbooks occasionally, but and I haven't seen you perform live a lot. I have seen you perform a couple of times.
hmm
I would like to have spent more time seeing you live, and hopefully I will.
Mm.
But when and I've observed that, and I've observed, YouTube videos. You're certainly media savvy, and you've got a fairly rich YouTube page and website and so on. But
Mm.
I observe your performance is like it's more. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I want you to tell me what that expression is like for you when you're in the midst of a song.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of musical memory, like in terms of how does one remember a song? Like,
Yeah, well, it's that too.
okay, yeah, yeah. Oh, cool. Well, I guess you're kind of bringing up a bit of just remembering different parts of the process of getting into songwriting and singing. And I remember at a certain point, kind of, I mean, I think I've been at it for about 25 years, like kind of really honed in on this practice. And I think of, like about a two or three, 2 years in, about, I just got to this point where I really felt like, and I kind of, I think most people probably have this experience too. You learn through extremes. And so I sort of had this experience of the extreme of, realizing like the whole magic of really anything, but a song is just being right in the moment. So feeling so fresh
Right.
with with the moment. And so then I started thinking, I'm not gonna write any new songs, and like I'm not gonna even write songs down anymore, you know. and and then I'd actually end up writing them in my, like I'd start remembering them a bit, and then even that was sort of an interesting choice point where it's like, well, should I choose to remember this or just let it rip around and, in the pure improv, unattached thing. And so anyway, I went through a whole phase where I actually just sang on all kinds of songs that were really, really great. Like I was like, wow, and, there's parts of me sometimes I should stop and record this, and it's like, nah, just, and it's killing the moment, man. Just stay focused.
Well, I mean, I do have some understanding of what you're saying, and I think that's what I was observing in your performances, is that they do seem really fresh and in the moment. But I also want to talk about the discipline of recording. Now you have
Mm-hmm.
four CDs, I think, and multiple singles that you've released, and you're in the process of producing a fifth. And I know that you've got a series of CDs on our own together, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so that the talk a little bit about the discipline required to produce those CDs, those recordings, and then
Mm-hmm.
how you wrestle the need for that freedom of expression that you're talking about as well. So just talk a little bit about the discipline there, because the production values on your stuff is great. I mean, I've listened to some of your
Mm-hmm.
CDs, and and I want you to talk a little bit about your friends too. You've got your musical friends that you refer to a
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Yeah,
So
right on.
yeah, so talk about that a little bit.
Well, just mention. I just love you're so empathic and wise to uh, who you're with. So I really appreciate the beauty and the depth of your questions. Um, but yeah, and it's a good way to segue, because I eventually, with the whole improv obsession, you could say, I eventually landed at where I can just work. I can feel creative even though I'm creating something that's I'm going to do over and over, uh, that could otherwise feel like limiting and not free and stuff like this. But it's like, wait a minute, if I craft something really, really well, then it actually becomes like just like a guitar you can pick up and have endless fun with. There's nothing different to anything else that's crafted. You could pick it up and have fun with it like that. So I kind of got over that hump of being rigid in my mind about somehow that making a plan takes away your ability to be improvisational, that they can go together.
Yeah.
And so then the joy of, and it's endless, because there seems to be an endless development of either side of those two aspects of any process of planning and improvising, and each one seems to get better with the other. So then, of course, like crafting a song and then crafting a recording and an album. And I mean, one of my sort of chosen techniques with the professional albums I've put out here has been just recording pretty much almost totally live off the floor.
Yeah.
There's been a few exceptions, and what I really, really love with my bandmates and friends is if they, like, I'll show them the song, and then they find their own way into it. I really like to tell people very, very little what to do.
Yep.
And I just love what people come up with and add in their own freedom to the the framework of and the spirit of the song.
Yes. Yeah.
And then
Understood.
it's just
Yep.
endless fun, like
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
each moment is, and then you sort of tune into each other that way. And then when we're playing live, we might play it just completely differently than how we ever played it before. But
Right. Right.
you sort of get to this place of really being able to leap off.
Yeah. Do I still have you?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think I do understand a little bit about that process. I also really like your one mic approach. I've seen some of your videos there.
Mm,
I did a show in Ontario that was a one mic show. We did it for like 7 years, like 10 months of the year kind of thing. And
mm.
I really love that approach, right? And the live off the floor approach. So you end up with something called a CD, and maybe you could talk a little bit about the essence of this series that you're working on Our Own Together. Just talk about that concept a bit. And Brian, I'm just going to let you know that we're about 15 minutes into our 20-minute walk. So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, we're almost there. Awesome. Um, yeah.
So On Our Own Together, yeah. What talk about that a bit?
Sure. So it's another paradox, and basically the series is sort of the part one is really like me and the guitar a lot, just me and the guitar, and then other people sort of on their own with their voice. I have 3 poets that do spoken word art, 2 with instrumental backgrounds, and 1 just the voice. And they're just friends that have shared these different gatherings along the way. One of the things I love to do is just have a sharing circle where people just kind of pass a feather and take a 2 to 5 minute turn sharing a story or a poem or a song, or a little bit of each, and then you go around the circle like that. It's almost like a bluegrass jam, except it's not limited to bluegrass, where everyone takes a turn. And so as a result of doing that with different people for years, then when the recording was happening, they were available. And one of the things that I did with actually all 5 of those albums was, however many days in the studio I could afford, we just went at it, and however many songs we got, that was the album.
Yeah.
And we'd sort of choose the songs based on who was showing up, and varying degrees of plans and no plans. And but that was the 3rd album project that actually turned into five nights of recording.
Yeah.
And so we got 45 tracks, and then at the end of each night, everyone would go home, and then I would sort of hang out and do another song or 2 just on my own. And so each song in and of itself really spoke to that theme, and then the whole album series basically.
Hello. Hello. So yeah, so Brian, talk a bit more now about the newest release. You have a date in mind for that. I know it's June, right? So that is On Our Own Together 3 of 3. You've decided there's going to be 3, I guess.
Yeah, so there's basically I keep telling myself maybe this is the last CD project I'll do, because hardly any, like cars and new computers, they don't even have CD players anymore. But
I know,
it's actually a
I
double
know.
disc album. The part 2 and 3 are actually a double disc together.
Yep.
And
Oh,
they're sort of
nice.
more
Okay.
the together part of the On Our Own Together. So the part 1's kind of more the On Our Own like where people are on their own more, and then the next part 2 and 3 are like where the band's together. And at one point we had 12 people in a 5-person room, just
Wow.
ripping it up. It was great.
So
So
what's
yeah, we're gonna put out the number, the Act 3 of 3 is gonna come out online June 6th, and we're gonna do an album release show on June 7th.
nice, nice.
At a sort of a really, really awesome sort of backyard. My friend's got like a really, really good sized backyard sort of stage
Cool.
area. And so we're going to have an outdoor concert if the weather permits. And we have a sort of an indoor backup idea at the same location too,
So that sounds
just in
great.
case the weather isn't cooperating with us.
Sure. Well, listen, we need to finish walking now. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, our mile is up. But, we'll just walk another mile on another occasion.
Oh, that would be great, Joe. It's what a treat. You taught the finest art of being a good poet or musician. You just listen so well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Uh,
Oh, it's a fine art. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I love what you do. So, in case you didn't know, so.
Likewise, Joe. Thanks so much. I look forward to meeting again soon, I hope.
All right, you take care, Brian.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.